Today, we're going to be multiplying and dividing positive and negative integers. Before we talk about division, let's talk about just multiplication. And I know that there are three specific ways that we can write multiplication. So when we were kids, we learned 3 times 5 was written like this with the x. So that's certainly one way to write it. But we can also use a dot to express multiplication. So this is another way. 3 times 5 is one way to write it. And then the third and final way we can express multiplication is with parentheses. So we can do open parentheses, close parentheses, open, 3 times 5, and close. So when we go to our handy dandy calculator, we can write, or type rather, 3 times using the x or the cross, it's between the multiplication and subtraction, 3 times 5, and it's going to look like that. We're going to press enter, and it's going to give us 15. Or we can use the parentheses, so open parentheses 3, close parentheses, open 5, and close. And so it's going to give us the same answer. Two different ways to write multiplication. Let's look at a textbook and let's talk about multiplication in here, and we'll do some of these together. So we're going to look at Chapter 1, Lesson 5, and I can see that we've got a few different things. So the text says we can repeatedly, you can use repeated addition to multiply an integer by a whole number, which is certainly true. My recommendation is you simply use the calculator. And remember two important rules. A positive times a positive is always a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. But a negative times a positive is always a negative. So we're going to return to that repeatedly, but if we use our calculators, we should be good. Let's take a look at division. And what I know is that, likewise, the quotient or the result of division between two negative integers is also going to be positive. So a negative times a negative is always going to give us a positive. A positive divided by a positive is always a positive. But if they're different, if they're a negative and a positive, it's going to give us a negative. So let's take a look at a few of these. So I can see, how can we express this? Let's look at negative 49 divided by 7. If we take our calculator, I'm going to clear it. And what we can do is use the negative sign, so negative 49 divided by 7. And the answer is negative 7. It's a negative divided by a positive, and it's going to give us a negative. So that makes sense, and we can see it here. It is in our text. There are some very important facts we should know when we are dividing. 0 divided by any number is 0. You cannot divide by 0. And any number divided by itself is 1. So let's explore that a little bit further in depth. So it says 0 divided by any number is 0. So if I take 0 divided by 9, it's going to give us 0. 0 divided by 1,000 is 0. All right. If I do 22, now this is going to be different. 22 over 22 divided by 0, it's going to give us, error. It's what we call undefined, so that won't work. And then any number divided by itself is 1. So if I do 88 divided by 88, it's going to give us 1. If I do, let's clear it, if I do 7 5 times, 77,777, if I divide that by itself, it's going to give us 1. If you remember those rules, you should be able to set them. As long as you have your handy dandy calculator, it's going to make your life much easier. We're going to be looking at pages 13 and 15, and when we're looking at these pages, we can see that we've got multiple ways to express multiplication, both through the parentheses and this dot. I also can see that we're going to be dividing on page 15. Let's pull this up. And so I'm looking forward to seeing your work. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Good luck.